Hi everyone, hope you guys are all having a great day today. Today's video is going to be relatively quick. I'm going to cover the Dow Jones, Nasdaq, S&P 500, including the economic calendar. Now I do post these videos daily, so I highly encourage you to double check the latest video on my channel so that way you get the most up-to-date information. And before I get to the analysis portion, I'm going to go over the economic calendar. So for Wednesday, September 4th, 2024, at 8:30 a.m. we have U.S. trade deficit. At 10 a.m. we have job openings as well as factory orders. And at 2 p.m. we have Fed Beige Book. And then we also have auto sales for August, but that will be announced later on for Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. And then in terms of analysis, it's going to be relatively quick. I just want to show the most important things. For the S&P and Dow Jones, we were at the all-time high zones, had difficulties to pass it. For example, I'm looking at ETF SPY, and which is for the S&P 500. So same thing, just different ratio. And you can see we were at all-time highs, having quite difficulties to pass it. This was back in July of 2024, and this is as of recent of August of 2024. Multiple times went up, got back tested, could not pass it, and then getting pulled down. Dow Jones, essentially almost same thing, all-time high zone for the most part. And we did have false breakouts, but for the most part got pulled down as well. And then for the Nasdaq, slightly different. This is the all-time highs, but this is an upward trend resistance line dating back since 2010, and we had difficulties passing it, and then plus a consolidation zone and getting pulled down. We saw Nvidia stock as well getting pulled down about 10%, and further downside is potentially getting shown. So given it's a mega cap stock, in my opinion, it kind of shows that more further downside could be coming from the markets as well with the mixed in MACD lines. So this is SPY ETF for S&P 500, like I stated. And then this is the MACD line indicating if it's a bearish or bullish movement. Mind you, you could argue still in the bullish movement, it showed that it was going to potentially cross over to the upside. Not cross over, but still stay in the upside with the potential reversal that I was mentioning the other day. Given how we're at all-time highs, could have been a decent run-up, but getting pulled down, crossing over to the bearish movement, in my opinion, indicating further downside, plus with Nvidia, so on and so forth. We could see a dead cat bounce within the day or two trading days, but ultimately coming down for further downside. For example, if we're looking at Nasdaq as well, MACD line is already in the bearish movement, again, indicating potential for a downside. So in terms of the 5-year chart or the 1-year chart, we are, again, potential to see a dead cat bounce. For example, we're at the moving average right about here for the Nasdaq, and coincidentally for the S&P as well at the moving average zone. And then for the Dow Jones, I believe we're not quite there, but we could see it bounce at the 40,100 points, give or take. Mind you, we're at 40,900 points, give or take as well. And then the volatility index has risen to 22.54% or 22.55 points, and then roughly about 9%. And again, MACD line, again, bullish, but potentially going to the downside, crossing into the bearish movement. Again, like I said, Nasdaq is already there at the bearish movement, and S&P is quite close. S&P all-time highs and did not cross over. Dow Jones did have a false breakout, getting pulled down, and then Nasdaq, like I stated, 2010 upward trend resistance line. Just to visually show in case I didn't show it, upward trend resistance line dating back since 2010. Market was still going up, mind you, but every time it went up, got knocked down. Broke through since 2020 to 2022, and came back underneath, so on and so forth. Here's the all-time high, just to visually show it is the all-time high, so on and so forth. And basically had difficulties passing 2010, and then consolidation, and then again pulled down. Again, further downside is showing, but it's potential dead cat bounce. I would cover levels, but the problem is with the nature of everything in terms of how drastic things could be. Like, for example, we saw S&P getting pulled down 2%, Nasdaq getting pulled down 3%, Dow Jones getting pulled down 1.5%. We could be seeing big drops, not necessarily for the day or two trading days of a potential dead cat bounce, but the drops could be pretty big. For example, some zones, I'll just give some zones that I'm looking at. For the QQQ, we closed at $461.81. One zone I could be looking at as potential support is the $447 and some change. But the thing is, ultimately, I'm looking within this zone where we went up in terms of resistance and support, channel kind of in a way. And that is in terms of support, $433 and some change within resistance of $447 and some change, 448. So we could get pulled down to that zone. For the Nasdaq, again, that's ETF QQQ. ETF for Nasdaq, and then SPY, which by the way is the same thing, just different ratio. For SPY, closed at $552 and some change, and ultimately coming down to potentially, not ultimately, but like within these zones. For example, I'm looking at consolidation support right about here with consolidation resistance, and that's about $543 and some change potentially. And then the next zone could be about 538 and some change. And then right about here, 531 and some change. And then maybe come down to 517 and some change. But these are just the drop zones. There's not really, like, it's not guaranteed it's going to come down to these zones. I'm just stating that these are some potential zones I'm looking for support. And then in terms of resistance, we have some moving average right about here, the 559, 560. And then ultimately on the upside, not ultimately again, but 555 or 556 and some change for the upside, capping us to the upside and then coming back down. Because again, MACD lines are kind of pointing to more further downside, and I see Nvidia coming down even further potentially. And then for Nasdaq, because I didn't cover it, the upside would be limited to $475 and some change, because with the moving average colliding plus this consolidation zone of resistance and support, we saw quite a bit. And then in the 2010 upward trend resistance line at 485 and some change. I'm not expecting to pass those anytime soon. And then for the Dow Jones, quite difficult to call, to be honest. But again, like I stated, with the moving average, or I did not mention, I guess, but with the moving average at the 1 year chart, I would expect this more to be a bounce zone, potentially about 40,100 points, give or take. But yeah, that's basically it for today's video. Sorry for it being quick. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you found it beneficial. If you did, consider dropping a like. It does help with the channel. So thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. And again, thanks again for watching. Take care. God bless and peace.